Story 1. It was just after 10:30 p.m. when I finally left work. I'd been at the office all day, and I was exhausted. The roads were empty, the kind of quiet you only get when it's late at night, and the only sound was the hum of my car's engine. I was looking forward to getting home and relaxing. It wasn't an unusual drive, just a long stretch of empty road with no traffic lights or anything to keep me busy. Just me and the road, the usual way home. But about 10 minutes into the drive, something felt off. I noticed headlights in my rearview mirror. It wasn't that unusual. There was always some late-night driver on these roads, but this car was too close. I could see the headlights almost on my bumper, not moving back at all. It made me uneasy, but I tried to shake it off. I sped up a little, but the car behind me sped up too. I took a right turn to see if I could lose them. The car did the same. I tried another turn, and still, the car followed. My heart started racing. It wasn't just that the car was following me, it was how it felt. It was like the driver knew exactly where I was going, like they were waiting for me to make a move. I checked my mirrors constantly, trying to see if the car would pull away, but it never did. It stayed right there, too close for comfort. I was getting nervous, and I could feel myself gripping the steering wheel tighter. Then, just as I approached another turn, the car's headlights flashed high beams directly at me. For a moment, the light was so bright that it blinded me, and I could barely see the road ahead. I blinked and shook my head to clear my vision, but when I looked again, the car had disappeared. Just gone. I checked my mirrors again, but there was nothing. No car in sight, no headlights, no engine noise. I kept driving, unsure if I was just imagining things. When I pulled into my driveway, I was still shaken. The streetlights were flickering, and the silence outside felt heavier than usual. I got out of the car quickly, still trying to process what had just happened. And that's when I heard it, the unmistakable sound of headlights getting louder. I turned around, and sure enough, there they were. The same headlights I had seen behind me on the road, flickering in the distance. They were in my neighbor's yard. I froze. I thought, maybe someone just turned their lights on in their driveway, but the car wasn't parked. The headlights were just there, in the yard, illuminating the bushes and trees. I stared at them for a few seconds, waiting for the car to pull away, but the lights just stayed on. Then, as quickly as they appeared, they vanished. The yard was dark again. I stood there, confused and a little creeped out, trying to figure out if I was imagining things. But the unease didn't go away. I went inside, locked the doors, and tried to forget about it. It was late, and I just wanted to sleep. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of footsteps outside my bedroom window. I froze. My heart skipped a beat. I tried to tell myself it was just the wind, or maybe an animal. But no. These were footsteps. Deliberate, slow steps. Like someone was walking around the side of my house. I could hear them moving from the front yard to the back, then back to the front again. I got up, grabbed my phone, and texted my neighbor. I asked if they'd seen anything strange tonight, but I didn't get a response. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was out there, just waiting for me to do something. I checked the windows, trying to see if I could spot anything. The footsteps stopped for a second, and I thought maybe it was over, but then I heard the sound again. It was almost like someone was pacing back and forth, deliberately keeping just out of sight. It wasn't until the morning that I dared to look outside. And when I did, I saw something that made my blood run cold. There, in the grass, was a fresh set of tire tracks. The same kind of tracks I'd seen on the road the night before, and they were heading straight toward my house. I don't know who it was. I don't know what they wanted. All I know is that I haven't been able to shake the feeling that someone was following me that night. And even now, whenever I pull into my driveway, I can't help but glance over my shoulder, wondering if I'll see those headlights again. I haven't driven that road at night since. Story 2. It was around 10:45 p.m. when I finally left work. It had been a long, exhausting day, and I just wanted to get home. The drive was always the same. Quiet, dark streets with no traffic, no lights. Just the soft hum of my car and the occasional sound of tires on the wet road. There were no streetlights on the route I took, so it was pitch black except for the headlights of my car. I had just turned onto a familiar intersection when I saw something up ahead. At first, I thought it was a shadow, or maybe just my eyes playing tricks on me. But as I got closer, I could make out the shape of a person standing in the middle of the road. They were just standing there, not moving, not looking at anything in particular, just completely still. I instinctively slowed down, thinking maybe they were just waiting for a car to pass or something. But as I got closer, they suddenly stepped into my path, blocking the road entirely. My heart skipped a beat and I slammed on the brakes, swerving hard to avoid hitting them. I'm not sure how I didn't crash, but somehow I managed to steer my car around them and keep going. I glanced in my rearview mirror to check if they were all right, but when I looked back, the figure was standing right in the middle of the road, staring directly at me. No movement, no reaction, just those eyes wide open, fixed on me. My blood ran cold. I looked away quickly and kept driving, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles were white. I had no idea what to make of it, but the air in the car felt thick. It felt wrong. As I drove a little farther, trying to shake off the image of that person standing in the road, I found myself coming up on the same intersection again. Something told me I needed to look back, so I slowed down, turned around, and drove back to where I had seen them. This time, when I approached the intersection, the figure wasn't in the road anymore. They were standing on the side of the road, near the trees, but they were looking directly at me. Their face was so pale I could see it clearly even in the dark. And then, the worst part, their mouth curled into a smile. But it wasn't a normal smile. It was too wide, like it was stretching far beyond what a human face should be able to do. I couldn't take my eyes off them. The smile, it was like it was mocking me, daring me to come closer. I started to feel this overwhelming urge to just leave, but I was frozen for a moment. Something about that smile made my stomach twist. Finally, I snapped out of it and floored the gas pedal, speeding away from the intersection. My heart was racing, and I could feel sweat forming on my forehead despite the cool night air. I didn't look back again. I just drove faster, my eyes glued to the road ahead, my mind still trying to make sense of what I'd just seen. When I got home, I locked the doors, turned off the car, and tried to calm myself down. But the whole way back, something didn't feel right. Even now, as I sit here writing this, I can't shake the feeling that I'm being watched. I keep checking my mirrors whenever I drive, and every time I pull into my driveway, I'm scared that I'll see that same figure standing at the edge of the road, smiling at me. I don't know who or what I saw that night, but I haven't taken that route home since. I can't. And honestly, I don't think I ever will again. Because part of me wonders if the figure in the road was something waiting for me. Something that's still out there. And I really don't want to find out. Story 3. It was around 10:15 p.m. when I finally left work. The roads were quiet, and the sky was pitch black except for a few scattered clouds. I was tired from a long day, and all I could think about was getting home. As I turned onto my street, I noticed something strange. The streetlights that usually lit up the block were flickering. It wasn't unusual for one or two to go out now and then, but this was different. All of them were flickering, almost like they were struggling to stay on. I slowed down, watching the lights dance in and out of brightness. But when I got closer to my block, something really unsettling happened. The entire street was pitch black. There were no lights at all, just darkness. It felt like something was wrong. I parked my car at the curb, my headlights cutting through the dark. As I stepped out, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I told myself it was just the late hour, and I was probably just imagining things, but still, I couldn't ignore the cold shiver down my spine. It was like the silence outside was pressing in on me. And then I heard it. A soft, almost breathless whisper. My name. Lily. I froze. I turned around quickly, my heart hammering in my chest. But there was no one there. No one in sight, just the empty, dark street around me. I told myself it was just the wind or my mind playing tricks, but the chill that crept down my spine told me otherwise. I hurried up the steps to my front door, not wanting to linger outside a second longer than necessary. Once inside, I locked the door and tried to shake off the uneasy feeling that had taken over. But as I moved through the house, I started hearing it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate steps. They were coming from outside, moving around the side of the house, almost like someone was walking in circles. I froze in place. I couldn't think. I wasn't sure if I should check or call someone, but I just stood there, my heart pounding. I went to the front window and peeked through the blinds. My breath caught in my throat. Standing in the street right in front of my house was a figure. I couldn't make out much. It was dark, and the figure was just a silhouette against the faint light from the distant street. But it was clear that the figure was staring directly at my house. No movement, no sign of life, just standing there, watching. I couldn't recognize the figure. It wasn't anyone I knew. It wasn't one of my neighbors. My eyes burned as I stared, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. My whole body felt frozen, like I couldn't move, like I was trapped. The figure didn't move for what felt like hours. It just stood there, staring at my front door. I didn't know what to do. Should I call the cops? Should I hide? I turned away from the window, my mind racing. But as I turned to move back into the house, I heard something. A tapping at the window, faint at first, then louder. I couldn't take it anymore. I rushed to the back of the house and tried to make my way through the rooms, but everywhere I went, the sound followed. Tap, tap, tap. It was like someone was moving around the house, tapping at every window, waiting for me to show myself. I couldn't stay there anymore. I grabbed my phone and called a friend, trying to stay as quiet as possible. But before I could even get the words out, I heard a voice, soft and faint, but unmistakable, from somewhere in the room. Lily. I froze again. That voice, it was in my house. I hadn't heard anyone come in, and there was no one else around. It was like they were right behind me, whispering in my ear. I spun around, but again there was nothing. No one, just the empty room. I don't know what happened after that. I ended up calling the police, but when they arrived, the figure was gone. The house was quiet. No sign of anyone. They couldn't find anything or anyone suspicious, and they told me it was probably just someone messing around. But I know what I heard. I know what I saw. It's been days since that night, and I can't shake the feeling that something is still out there, waiting. Every time I pull up to my house, I look around, half expecting to see that figure standing there, watching me. And every time I hear a faint whisper of my name, I'm reminded of that night. I never want to experience something like that again. But part of me wonders if the figure is still out there, waiting for me to come home.